The slap of the principal's hand separating them echoed louder than the gasps from the crowded hallway. "Viviana Morales and Vanessa Thompson, you are both expelled for this disgusting display," Principal Hargrove bellowed, his face red with fury. In that moment their world shattered as the girl they loved stood beside them, fingers slipping but hearts clinging desperately to the memory of the kiss that had been meant only for each other after months of stolen glances and whispered promises in the shadows of Rivorton Academy. It was a crisp October morning in Austin, Texas, at the elite private high school known for its strict moral code and conservative values. Viviana, a 17-year-old senior with long wavy dark hair and fiery determination, had always been the outspoken one, the debate team captain, who challenged teachers on social issues. Vanessa, the quiet blonde overachiever with straight A's and a scholarship lined up for art school, had been her secret anchor for the past 8 months. Their love had started innocently enough, shared notes in study hall, then late-night texts that turned into meetings at the park after dark. They knew the risks in this town where Sunday sermons still condemned anything outside traditional norms, but that morning, after a brutal argument with her own doubts, Viviana had pulled Vanessa into a quiet corner and kissed her softly to say everything words could not. Someone had seen. Someone had filmed. The video spread like wildfire through the student group chats before the first bell even rang. By lunch, the administration had called an emergency assembly. Now, as security guards flanked them and marched the girls toward the main office, the weight of every stare burned into their backs. Viviana's mind raced with anger and fear. She had dreamed of becoming a lawyer fighting for justice, but this expulsion would stain her record forever. Vanessa walked in silence, her blue eyes downcast, replaying the kiss in her head, wondering if their love had been selfish enough to destroy their futures. Outside the office, their parents waited, already summoned. Viviana's father, a strict Mexican-American immigrant who ran a small construction company, gripped the doorframe, his knuckles white. "What have you done to this family?" he hissed in Spanish, his voice cracking with disappointment as her mother stood beside him, tears streaming but silent, unable to meet her daughter's eyes. They had raised her with traditional values: church every Sunday, no questions about boys. Vanessa's parents, a Southern Baptist pastor, and his homemaker wife, looked equally devastated. Her mother clutched a handkerchief, sobbing openly, while her father demanded answers from the principal. "This is not the daughter we raised," he said, his tone cold as ice. The girls were given 30 minutes to clear their lockers. Whispers followed them down the halls, former friends turning away, some even muttering slurs under their breath. Emily, their supposed best friend who had known about the relationship for weeks, avoided eye contact, but Viviana caught the guilt in her glance later, realizing the betrayal ran deeper. As they loaded their backpacks into separate cars, the separation felt final. Viviana's parents drove her straight home, where her father declared she would be sent to live with an aunt in Dallas until she could finish high school online. "No more of this nonsense," he said, slamming the car door. Vanessa was grounded indefinitely, her phone confiscated, and therapy sessions scheduled immediately with the church counselor to cure her confusion. That night, alone in her childhood bedroom, Viviana stared at the ceiling, her chest tight with unspoken pain. The cost of their love was already mounting, family bonds fracturing under the weight of shame and fear. She replayed every moment with Vanessa, the way her laugh lit up the darkest days, the gentle way she held her hand when no one was looking. Was it worth it, she wondered as tears soaked her pillow. Across town, Vanessa sat in her room listening to her mother pray aloud for her soul, the words cutting like knives. The inner conflict tore at her. She loved Viviana with every fiber, but the guilt planted by years of sermons made her question if their feelings were truly right, or just a phase that had ruined everything. The school had not just expelled them, it had exposed the fragile line between who they were and who the world demanded they be. The next days blurred into isolation. News of the expulsion spread through the community, parents pulling their kids from after-school activities in fear of contamination. Viviana's younger sister refused to speak to her, at first torn between loyalty and the family's pressure. Vanessa's church group organized a prayer vigil for her soul, adding to the public humiliation. Yet in quiet, stolen moments they texted from borrowed phones, promising to find a way back to each other. The decision to fight for their love despite the price was forming, but the road ahead looked impossible, filled with doubt and the heavy realization that every choice carried irreversible consequences for the women they loved most, their mothers, their sisters, themselves. Weeks turned into months as the girls navigated their new fractured realities from opposite sides of Texas. Viviana arrived in Dallas to a cold welcome from her aunt, who enforced strict rules: no phone after 9, no mention of Vanessa. She enrolled in an online program determined to graduate with honors, but the isolation gnawed at her. Nights were the worst when memories flooded in of Vanessa's gentle touch during their secret picnics, the way they had planned college together, dreaming of a life free from judgment. Now Viviana questioned everything: her identity, her faith, her worth. The moral dilemma consumed her: was loving another woman a sin that justified losing her family, or was the real wrong in denying her true self and hurting those who raised her? Vanessa fared no better in Austin. Forced into weekly counseling sessions, the therapist pushed conversion narratives, framing her feelings as confusion from peer pressure. Her mother hovered constantly, alternating between tears and lectures about eternal damnation. Vanessa's inner turmoil deepened. She loved her family deeply, yet their rejection felt like betrayal. One evening, after a particularly brutal session, she broke down and agreed to attend a youth group event, hoping to appease them. There she met a boy from church, kind and persistent, who asked her out. Under the crushing weight of guilt and family expectations, she said yes, thinking perhaps this was the path to normalcy, the right choice to heal the wounds she had caused. The date was a disaster. Sitting across from him at a diner, Vanessa felt nothing but emptiness, her mind drifting to Viviana's smile. She excused herself early and cried the whole way home, realizing the compromise had only deepened her self-loathing. The decision to try had cost her a piece of her integrity, and when she finally confessed to her journal, the words felt like another layer of loss. Meanwhile, Viviana heard rumors through mutual friends about Vanessa dating someone else, the news hitting like a punch. Betrayed and heartbroken, she threw herself into her studies, vowing to succeed on her own terms. Her aunt eventually softened, sharing stories of her own youthful rebellions, but the damage to family ties lingered, her father still refusing calls. By senior year-end, both girls had earned their diplomas, Viviana through online courses with top grades, Vanessa after begging her parents for one last chance at public school where she kept her head down. The separation had taken its toll on their bond. Rare secret meetings arranged through sympathetic cousins ended in tearful arguments. Viviana accused Vanessa of giving in to pressure, while Vanessa defended her choices as survival. The psychological strain manifested in sleepless nights, anxiety attacks, and quiet doubts about whether their love was strong enough to survive the world's judgment. Each paid the price in lost innocence, Viviana distancing from her cultural roots, feeling like an outsider in her own heritage, Vanessa battling depression that left her questioning her artistic dreams. Graduation came without fanfare. Viviana moved to Chicago for a community college scholarship, scraping by on part-time jobs at a coffee shop where customers sometimes sneered at her short hair and confident stride. Vanessa headed to a state university in California, funded by a reluctant family loan, but required to attend regular check-ins with a local pastor. The distance grew wider, yet late-night emails kept the flame alive, words of longing mixed with apologies for the pain they had inflicted on each other and their families. Inner conflicts raged on for Viviana, the guilt of seeing her mother's weekly letters begging her to come home and find a good man; for Vanessa, the torment of hiding her truth from new friends who assumed she was straight. Societal prejudice followed them in subtle ways, denied apartment rentals because landlords sensed something off, job interviews where questions about personal life felt loaded. A turning point arrived when Viviana received a call from her sister back in Austin. Their father had suffered a mild heart attack, the stress of the family scandal cited as a factor. The news forced Viviana to confront the ultimate trade-off: her love for Vanessa versus the duty to her blood. She flew home for a tense visit where her mother hugged her tightly, whispering that love should not destroy, but her father remained distant. Vanessa, hearing of the trip through old contacts, felt a surge of jealousy and regret. Her own family still fractured, her mother barely speaking to her. The betrayal by Emily surfaced fully when a mutual acquaintance revealed she had been the one to film and send the video out of jealousy over their closeness. The revelation added fuel to their pain, but also a shared resolve to never let others define their worth again. As they entered their early 20s, the girls made pivotal decisions. Viviana transferred to a 4-year university studying pre-law on loans and grants, determined to fight the very systems that had expelled them. Vanessa pursued graphic design, thriving in California's more accepting environment, but carrying the weight of family estrangement. Their communication evolved from desperate pleas to steady support plans to meet in neutral cities. The psychological growth was hard-won, each learning to balance self-acceptance with empathy for the families who still struggled to understand. Yet the cost remained evident in strained holiday calls, unanswered prayers, and the quiet fear that their love might always demand sacrifices too heavy for one lifetime. College years tested their resilience in ways neither had anticipated. In Chicago, Viviana excelled in her pre-law classes, but faced constant microaggressions from conservative classmates who whispered about her background. She joined the campus LGBT alliance, finding strength in shared stories, yet the inner voice planted by her upbringing whispered doubts during quiet moments. One semester she dated a fellow activist, briefly hoping to prove to herself that life could be simpler, but the relationship ended quickly when she admitted her heart still belonged to Vanessa. The decision to end it brought clarity but also a fresh wave of loneliness, the price of honesty paid in another broken connection. Vanessa thrived creatively in California, her designs winning awards and landing her an internship at a progressive ad agency. She built a circle of supportive friends who celebrated her identity, but the family silence haunted her. Her mother sent occasional cards with Bible verses, the subtle judgment cutting deep. During a visit home for her brother's wedding, Vanessa endured pointed questions about her single status, her father pulling her aside to suggest counseling again. The confrontation escalated when she defended her truth, leading to her being asked to leave early. Driving back to the airport, she called Viviana, tears flowing, the emotional toll manifesting in weeks of creative block. Their first reunion after 3 years happened in Denver, a neutral halfway point. The meeting was awkward at first, years of separation layering tension on their embrace. They walked through parks, talking late into the night, unpacking the betrayals, the doubts, the small victories. Vanessa confessed the fake date, the guilt that had nearly broken her. Viviana shared the family health scare and her fear of losing them forever. The conversation turned to future plans, both agreeing their love was worth fighting for. But the moral questions lingered. Was it right to pursue happiness at the expense of parental peace? Or did true growth require cutting ties completely? Back in their respective cities, they supported each other through milestones: Viviana's acceptance to law school, Vanessa's first gallery show. Success brought new pressures: Viviana's firm internship in a traditional practice where she hid her relationship to avoid bias, Vanessa navigating client meetings where personal life came up casually. A major setback hit when Viviana's father had a second health episode, this time serious enough to hospitalize him. She rushed home only to be met with her mother's plea to stay and help the family business. The dilemma tore at her. Staying meant delaying her dreams and potentially reuniting with Vanessa on unequal terms. Leaving meant risking permanent estrangement. She chose to stay 6 months, the sacrifice strengthening her resolve, but straining the long-distance bond as arguments over priorities increased. Vanessa, meanwhile, dealt with her own crisis when her church-going cousin outed her at a family gathering, leading to a public shunning that left her isolated during the holidays. The pain fueled her art, turning trauma into powerful pieces that caught the eye of a mentor who encouraged her to start a small business. She launched an online platform for inclusive design resources, the early success a bomb, but the cost was evident in therapy sessions where she processed years of internalized shame. The girls' phone calls became lifelines filled with encouragement and shared plans to one day build a life together free from the past's shadow. By their mid-20s, both had graduated, Viviana with a law degree specializing in civil rights, Vanessa with a thriving freelance career. They moved to Portland, Oregon together, at last renting a small apartment and starting a joint nonprofit focused on education access for marginalized youth. The work was fulfilling yet demanding long hours, fundraising and advocacy that echoed their own expulsion story. Family relations thawed slightly, Viviana's mother visiting once, Vanessa's parents sending neutral updates, but the underlying tension remained. Inner conflicts evolved from raw pain to quiet reflection, each woman grappling with whether their choices had been selfish or necessary for survival. The nonprofit grew, gaining national attention, but with it came scrutiny from conservative groups dredging up their high school scandal. A pivotal betrayal resurfaced when Emily, now working as a counselor in Austin, reached out via email apologizing and offering to connect them with old school alumni. The girls accepted, warily meeting her for coffee during a Texas trip. The conversation revealed Emily's jealousy had stemmed from her own unspoken feelings, the admission bringing closure, but also reopening wounds. The encounter forced them to decide on forgiveness, not for Emily, but for their own peace, the moral choice weighing heavy as they drove away, discussing how holding grudges had cost them years of energy. Their success continued, the nonprofit securing grants and partnerships. Viviana argued cases that changed local policies. Vanessa's designs featured in campaigns for equality. Yet the personal cost lingered in missed family milestones, strained friendships, and the constant navigation of a world still not fully accepting. As they approached 30, the idea of returning to their roots began to form not as victims, but as victors, a decision born from years of reflection on the price of silence versus the power of truth. The nonprofit flourished into a multimillion-dollar organization with Viviana as legal director and Vanessa heading creative outreach. Their life in Portland was stable, filled with friends and purpose, yet the past called louder after news of a devastating flood in Austin that severely damaged Riverton Academy, the very school that had expelled them. Reports showed crumbling buildings, outdated facilities, and a community struggling to recover. The irony was not lost on them. The institution that had cast them out now needed help. Initial discussions were cautious. They donated anonymously through the nonprofit, funneling funds for emergency repairs, but as reconstruction plans stalled, they considered more. Viviana researched the school's current board, finding Principal Hargrove still influential, his views unchanged. Vanessa designed concept art for a modern, inclusive campus, the process stirring old memories. The decision to reveal their involvement came after a long night of debate, the moral dilemma clear: offering help could heal old wounds or reopen them, forcing the community to confront its prejudices. They flew to Austin for a preliminary meeting with the school board, presenting as potential major donors. The room tensed when their names were announced, old teachers shifting uncomfortably. Hargrove recognized them immediately, his expression hardening. "We appreciate the offer, but we have standards," he said, the words dripping with implication. Viviana countered with facts about their success and the need for progress, the confrontation tense but controlled. Vanessa stayed composed, sharing how the expulsion had shaped her art into something meaningful, the emotional undercurrent palpable. Family reactions mixed. Viviana's mother met them privately, expressing pride mixed with lingering worry. Her father absent but sending a note of reluctant thanks. Vanessa's parents attended a community fundraiser, avoiding direct conversation, their discomfort evident. The betrayal element peaked when Emily appeared at the meeting, now a board advisor, her presence a shock. She pulled them aside, admitting her role in the video and seeking redemption, the conversation raw with accusations and apologies. The girls chose conditional forgiveness, not full trust, the decision a careful balance of justice and healing. Reconstruction talks intensified, the girls conditioning their full sponsorship on policy changes, diversity training, and an inclusive curriculum. Negotiations dragged with heated debates, board members citing tradition, parents protesting at town halls. Viviana's legal expertise shone as she navigated contracts, while Vanessa's designs won over skeptics with visions of a brighter future. Inner conflicts resurfaced for both, the fear of being used as tokens versus the opportunity to rewrite history. Each paid the price in sleepless nights, public scrutiny, and the emotional labor of facing their past daily. A breakthrough came when a former classmate and now successful businesswoman publicly supported them at a town meeting, her testimony about witnessing the expulsion shifting opinions. The girls' relationship deepened through the stress, quiet evenings in their hotel, reaffirming their bond, the love that had survived so much now a source of strength. Yet societal pressure mounted, local media digging into their story, some articles sympathetic, others critical, framing their donation as revenge. As funding commitments solidified, the girls faced personal reckonings, Viviana reconciling with her sister over shared family burdens, Vanessa opening up to her brother about the years of silence. The choices made in these months defined them, the willingness to invest millions and their reputations into a place that had broken them, a testament to growth or folly depending on the lens. Construction began in earnest, with the girls overseeing key phases from Portland via video, but making frequent trips. The new buildings rose, modern glass structures replacing the old brick, symbols of progress. Community events brought mixed crowds, some celebrating the upgrade, others boycotting in protest. Viviana and Vanessa attended groundbreakings, standing side by side, their presence sparking whispers, but also conversations that challenged old views. A major confrontation unfolded at a board meeting when Hargrove opposed a proposed LGBT support program, calling it inappropriate. Viviana stood delivering a passionate argument rooted in their experience, the room falling silent as she detailed the psychological toll of expulsion, the family fractures, the years of doubt. Vanessa followed with a presentation of student testimonials from their nonprofit, the data irrefutable. The vote passed narrowly, the victory bittersweet as Hargrove resigned in protest, his departure a symbolic end to an era. Family dynamics shifted gradually. Viviana's father attended a site visit, his first acknowledgement of their success, a gruff hug conveying more than words. Vanessa's mother joined a design workshop, her tentative praise a bridge across the divide. Yet not all was smooth. A distant aunt criticized the donation, publicly accusing them of buying acceptance, the comment reigniting old pains, and forcing another moral choice to respond or let it fade. The nonprofit expanded, incorporating the school project into its mission, training teachers, and creating safe spaces. Success brought awards and media features, but the personal cost remained in the emotional exhaustion of constant advocacy. The girls leaned on each other through it all, their relationship maturing into a partnership of equals marked by quiet rituals like morning coffee and evening walks where they processed the day's battles. As the rebuild neared completion, they planned the reopening ceremony, the climax of their journey. Invitations went out to alumni families and the community, the event promising speeches and tours. Behind-the-scenes tensions simmered, with some alumni organizing a counter-event, but the girls pressed on their decision to attend, rooted in the belief that visibility mattered more than comfort. Inner awakenings defined this period. Viviana, realizing her law career had been a direct response to the expulsion, transforming pain into purpose. Vanessa, understanding her art had always been a form of rebellion, now channeled into healing. The trade-offs were clear: lost time with family, strained friendships, but the rewards: a life lived authentically, a love unapologetic. The reopening ceremony dawned bright and clear, the new Riverton Academy gleaming under the Texas sun. Hundreds gathered on the lawn, former students, teachers, and families filling the seats. Viviana and Vanessa stood at the podium hand in hand as the ribbon was cut, their presence the focal point. Viviana spoke first, her voice steady, recounting the hallway kiss, the expulsion, the long road back. She detailed the inner battles, the family heartbreaks, the societal barriers, each word a testament to resilience. Vanessa followed, sharing how the pain had forged their success, the nonprofit, the rebuild, a full circle moment. Confrontations peaked during the Q&A when a former teacher questioned their motives and Emily spoke, publicly owning her betrayal and asking for community forgiveness. The air thickened with emotion, some applauding, others shifting uncomfortably. The girls answered with grace, emphasizing growth over grudge, the moral stance sparking immediate debate in the crowd. As the event concluded, families approached, some offering apologies, others still reserved. Viviana's father shook their hands, his eyes misty, Vanessa's mother, hugging them tightly, the gestures small but profound. The day ended with a private moment at the old hallway, now transformed, where they had kissed years ago, now a quiet garden of reflection. Their journey complete, the girls returned to Portland, changed yet stronger, the school rebuilt, not just in bricks but in possibility. The price had been high: lost years, family rifts, personal doubts, but the awakening, profound love as both shield and sword. Did Viviana and Vanessa's forgiveness and generosity prove that love can redeem even the harshest prejudices, or did it merely allow the system that once shamed them to profit from their success without true accountability? What choice would you make if the school that broke your heart asked for your help years later?